Hi, this is Catherine. This is Taking Tea with Catherine. This is Jane's Garden Tea from Hardy & Sons in a Jane Austen mug with a Jane Austen quote. It has all the things, and I wonder why. It is the Jane Austen July TBR, Taking Tea with Catherine edition. I'm very excited about this. This is my third time participating in Jane Austen July. The co-hosts are Katie at Books and Things, Marissa from Blatantly Bookish, and now also Claudia at Spinster's Library. So very exciting. I've done nothing but enjoy July, the month of July, which is amazing because it's usually my least favorite month of the year, competing with January because it's cold. But now I look forward to January too, but I'm not going to go into that. Yes, I'm not living in Jane Austen times. We have motors outside. But anyway, and I love it because it is an easygoing challenge in terms of like everything else. You can just read one Jane Austen novel and you've made it. But really, this is one that I want to get into all the way. And I did the past 2 years, and yeah, there's a lot of lovely prompts. I think there's like, probably going to be a lot of videos to look forward to from both the hosts and a lot of other people who are into Jane Austen in general, and or her time. And this year I'm keeping a specific journal because I have one that is a Jane Austen journal, and because my book journal right now I'm not really enjoying very much. It's just hasn't been doing it for me, but I could talk about that another time. But I thought, let me have a dedicated one. And I found this at Book Off for $1. I was so surprised. It was many months ago. And when I found it, I said, well, I'm going to have to use this as a journal for Jane Austen July, which I will. It has usually a picture and a quote on all the pages, and the rest is blank. So I think it's usable. So I'm very excited about that. And I'm also, I haven't really been talking about this particular subject in most of my recent videos, just because I got a little distracted by things in life. But I'm still working on the whole Catherine project, Poets and Pre-Raphaelites, because it is a quite easy project to encompass a lot of my own interests in, which is basically reading more poetry, reading about poets, but especially focusing on either the poets that helped inspire the Pre-Raphaelites, or any of the writings that helped inspire the Pre-Raphaelites, or the time periods, the historical time periods, so that inspired the Pre-Raphaelites, or that they drew from for their portraits, etc., and also things that were inspired by the Pre-Raphaelites. But that really won't work for Jane Austen July. Mostly what can work for Jane Austen July is that some of the romantic poets of Jane Austen's time were people that the Pre-Raphaelites liked a lot, and maybe we're even related to in some way sometimes, but because that's in England, small world, right? So we'll see. Hear a little sparrow outside. I don't mind that accompaniment. It's much better than a car. But anyway, so let's get started, and I will see if I mention anything that I could tie into the poets and Pre-Raphaelites, which kind of sounds Jane Austen-y anyway. Then I will mention it to you. So the first prompt is to read one of Jane Austen's 6 novels, and there are group reads of 2 novels, which I'm going to definitely participate in. The first is Mansfield Park, which is the longer one, but it doesn't really look that long, but the writing is a little bit small in this particular volume. I don't like this volume very much, but it's the one I have, and I haven't read Mansfield Park. This is not the one I read from originally. I refer to it every once in a while, but I haven't actually read it cover to cover in a possibly long time, yes, long time, because I just haven't. So this is going to complete me, because then I will have read every Jane Austen novel at least twice by the time this is over, and maybe more than that with a few of them, really. Speaking of which, Persuasion is the other book, and I have read this numerous times. It is, I would say, my favorite Jane Austen novel, although Pride and Prejudice is a very, very close second. And it is also one of her shortest novels, but it's such an enjoyable story. It has the letter. If you don't know what that is, read it and find out. It is romantic, but not, every minute overly so. It can be, a little bit sad at times, but it is generally hopeful. It's mature. I don't need to get into everything about it, but I just love it very much, and we'll be talking about it a lot more as the month progresses. And the next is read something by Jane Austen that is not one of her main 6 novels. My first thought was to read The History of England, because I haven't read that in a long time. But then I realized I don't have a copy of it. So I thought, instead of yet again acquiring something, I decided to instead read what I had. And last year I read Lady Susan, so I have this volume. I decided to read The Watsons, which, again, I haven't read in a very long time, so why not? I remember almost nothing about it, so it's time. Read a nonfiction work about Jane Austen or her time period, which is the late Georgian or Regency era. I have 2 books here that I really, really want to get to. This one I started not too long ago, but I thought to save it for Jane Austen July, and it is The Regency Years by Robert Morrison, during which Jane Austen writes, Napoleon fights, Byron makes love, and Britain becomes modern. So that encompasses a lot of activity, all of which I find interesting. So I am very excited about this one. But I also picked a book that will probably fit in. Of course, that one mentioned Byron, so there you go. But this also fits in with Wordsworth. This is Jane and Dorothy. So this is A True Tale of Sense and Sensibility, the lives of Jane Austen and Dorothy Wordsworth. I don't know enough about her. I've read a little bit of, I've read writings. I still have that biography on Wordsworth that I haven't read yet, but I haven't read anything specifically about her, Dorothy. So that might be cool, and I really like the cover, by Marian Veevers, I think. Veevers? Anyway, so I'm looking forward to this one very much. It still has kind of stickiness on here from an old sticker, which is kind of annoying. I wish they would learn how to make stickers properly. But anyway, what else do we have here? So that's the nonfictions. Read a modern retelling of a Jane Austen book. So I guess that doesn't necessarily mean it has to take place in modern times, but it's just written modern, I guess. I don't know. But I figured we're going to have 2 choices. One is a book that I tried to get last year. Actually, I was supposed to get it in the mail from like a, advanced reader copy, but something happened in the whole COVID time that it never showed up. And at first I was like, well, fine, then I won't read it. But then I said, you know what? Get over it. And because I'm reading Persuasion, I might as well read Recipe for Persuasion by Sonali Dev. And I don't know much about it, but I'm looking forward to discussing it here where I can. Yay. And then I got this recently, and it's a YA, and it's a murder mystery. YA I don't read enough of, and I love to read murder mysteries, so I can actually do a tea mystery in the month of July. And this is Pride and Premeditation. It's I don't remember exactly when this is supposed to take place, but it seems like it's going to be in the past. I just don't know if it's Regency. But judging from the picture, it might be. But look, there's a teacup, and putting on my baby voice, and one of those hats, etc. So probably. But Lizzie Bennet gets involved. There's a murder investigation, and she's kind of not allowed to be, an actual litigator, or whatever you want to call it, be an actual lawyer, but she's going up against Fitzwilliam Darcy. So it sounds like an interesting premise. It might be terrible, but I'm hoping that it's going to be fantastic, and we shall see. And next is read a book by a contemporary of Jane Austen's, someone publishing in her lifetime, give or take a few years. I thought about reading Mary Shelley's Frankenstein because I haven't read it yet, and I have the 1818-ish time, her first publishing of it, which is just slightly outside of Jane Austen's lifetime, but I don't know if I'm going to get to it, but I just thought I'd pick a smaller book, and that is Mary Hayes' Memoirs of Emma Courtney. This looks very Jane Austen-y. So this was written in her time in I think it's like in the 1790s, and it's kind of a autobiographical novel book. that is kind of like a feminist bent. She seems to have been influenced by Mary Wollstonecraft, and she was in touch with people like Godwin and other people that were, thinkers of the time. So this could be amazing, I hope. It has some pencil writing in here, which I don't like, but I can erase it, I guess. And yeah, and it's not that big, so that might help give me time to read other things. Okay, next is, where are we? We did the contemporary. Oh yes, watch a direct screen adaptation of a Jane Austen book. You don't have to ask me twice, but I will aim for Persuasion, the 95 version, because that's my favorite version, and I haven't watched it beyond a couple of clips in a while, so that will be nice. I'll probably watch other ones, we'll see. Watch a modern screen adaptation of a Jane Austen book. I haven't picked one yet. This is a TBR, it's not a TBW, TBV, whatever you want to call it. So I'm just going to leave it to, we'll see what happens. There are so many things to choose from. I'm just going to pick whatever I can find, I think, because nowadays it's hard to find things streaming. I have a number of streaming channels, but I don't know. But if I could find either that or something on YouTube, we'll see. I know there's a lot of options, but I also thought about rewatching from Midsummer Murders, Death by Persuasion, which is someone gets killed on the set of a Jane Austen film. So it's got all the costumes and everything. I haven't watched that in about a year, so that could be fun, or not. So those are the definites, or I hope are definites. I have other options of things I want to read that kind of go along with all of this. First I'm going to show you a magazine, because I've been trying to read more periodicals. And I haven't done a recent video about the periodicals I have been reading from. So if I do, you'll probably see some slightly older magazines, but... And I'm quite put out. I'm thinking about renaming myself for these, for Jane Austen July. I'm going to be Lady Catherine de Book. I'm already Lady Catherine, aren't I? Anyway. Lady Catherine. But this came out last year, I guess, winter of 2020. This is a magazine called Enchanted Living. I'm not as into all the airy-fairy stuff, really. I know some people really like that stuff. People are into fantasy and stuff. A lot of that I skip. Just not my thing. But that might be different for you. But these magazines always seem to have the subjects I'm interested in. Like there was a, when I was into the whole hygge phase, which I still love, but they had one about that. They had one about Pre-Raphaelites, which I will show you guys another time, I guess, etc. But this one is the Romantics issue, which seems to work for this time period. So it has articles about Mary Shelley, hikes, trying to see something else. Oh, look! And it has Dorothy Wordsworth. Dorothy Wordsworth. So I get to read a little more about her. I looked at this already. I did read it, but I didn't read it as much. I wanted to save it for July, which was hard because it's hard to wait. Oh, there's food in here too. Oh, look, this is an Irish writer. The Audacious Life and Times of Romantic Writer Sidney Owenson. Man, I know so little about things that this is going to be a learning experience for me. So I will share with you, hopefully, what I read from this. Let me know if you guys read this as well. I don't know. Magazines. You don't hear... I have a few people on BookTube that I know of that share what they read that are not just books. What periodicals and stuff. I know Kate Howe sometimes. Steve Donahue. There's another one. Someone else says that too. But I think I want to get that more of a thing. I know this is BookTube, but... it's still reading related, So let's keep that going. All right, so here are some other options that I probably won't read all of or many of, but I thought I'm going to throw them in just in case. This is Anne Radcliffe's A Sicilian Romance, which came out in the 1790s. I started Mysteries of Udolpho last year, did not get very far in it. Sorry, it's probably up here somewhere maybe, I don't know. But I want to try again with Radcliffe, and maybe I'll continue with Mysteries of Udolpho when I read Northanger Abbey again. We'll see. But I don't know. And this is A Vindication of the Rights of Women by Mary Wollstonecraft, as we referred to before. I did start this, so I wouldn't mind continuing. I don't have to read the entirety of it, but I wouldn't mind reading some of it. This book I got out of the library, so I would really like to read it and return it. because I really just want to get a lot of books back to the library right now. This is one of my goals. This is Mad and Bad, Real Heroines of the Regency by B. Koch. B. Koch? I think cousin of Always Doing had something good to say about this person. And I like, I can read about men of this time period. Of course, I'm going to. The Romantics, a lot of them were men, the poets and stuff. But I kind of liked focusing on women during Jane Austen July because she was a female writer, kind of a big deal to me. This is a book that I got at the end of July of 2019. Started it, thought it was an interesting premise, thought I'd read it for 2020, but since it starts out with people dying of sickness, I thought, I don't want to read this. So I don't know if I'm going to get very far in this, but this is a Pride and Prejudice variation called The Mistress of Longbourn. Basically, everyone in the area where the Bennet family live gets beset by illness, and the Bennet family gets really hit in that the only survivors of the entire family are Elizabeth, I think, and Kitty, which is horrific, honestly. And from what I remember, it says it quite in the beginning, somehow they get the entail, somehow one of her lawyer relatives gets the entail turned out so that Elizabeth becomes the Mistress of Longbourn. She is the one who lives there. And so when Mr. Bingley and Mr. Darcy and company come into town, it's a completely different encounter. I read up to the part where they met each other, and it is so different. Even though it's a sad premise, it is kind of cool to think what if. And I love what ifs. So if I can get to this, I will. This is Jan Rowland, I think, is the author. So we'll see. I don't like the picture that much for some reason. It doesn't quite look as Jane Austen-y as I would like it to look. Whatever. I have to say whatever, we're going to do Clueless, as if. Because that is a Jane Austen retelling. Then I have this book that I found at Book Off, which I don't know if I'll read the whole thing, but I might refer to it at least a couple times. And this is the Jane Austen Handbook, Proper Life Skills from Regency, England, by Margaret C. Sullivan. So it's a nice little naked hardback cover. Oh, I love it. Speaking of which, I also found this. And this is Global Jane Austen. Pleasure, Passion, and Possessiveness in the Jane Austen Community. I don't know. I have heard nothing about this elsewhere, which doesn't mean that it's bad, but it does seem kind of scholarly, which I have to be in the mood for. So we'll see. We'll see if I get to this one. If not, there's always another time. And then there's also this book that I've heard very mixed things about. I've heard some people who are real Jane Austen fanatics that don't like this very much, but if I have time, I might read it anyway, because I kind of like all kinds of points of view and explorations when it comes to Jane Austen. And this is Jane Austen, The Secret Radical by Helena Kelly. So, I think it's just kind of using things that she wrote and did and turning it into other, considerations, like how she overturned things by what she did and wrote or whatever. I don't know. We'll see. Or helped to do so. She never single-handedly did that, There are so many Jane Austen books I wish I could read now. I saw one that was about her friendship with, what's her name, Martha Lloyd, I think? Maybe? Something like that. Anyway, but I don't have it, and I thought maybe I'll get it, but we'll see, because last year I bought a book kind of early in the month, new, that I hadn't had in my TBR, and then I just read that as well. So you may see some changes. I wanted to read the next book in the Jane Austen mystery series, where, in other words, Jane Austen investigates, just she finds herself in the middle of a mystery of some sort, and she helps to solve the mystery. And the first one I read, and I liked it, but hard to get a hold of them without having to buy it. And in mystery series, sometimes I like to be able to take it out of the library, but this hasn't been very readily available. But anyway, I really think I have enough, right? I think I have enough, because I probably will be reading other books as well in July, but I'm mostly focusing on this because it's Jane Austen July. So I'm very excited, and I'll keep you updated as to what I'm reading, what I think about it. Also, if I'm doing anything activity-wise that is Jane Austen related at all, I'll try to keep you up on it. I would love to be able to figure out how to do a vlog in July, but I don't know if I'm up to that. But anything's possible, and I'm very excited to see everybody else's videos, because this just never gets old for me. So that's all for now. Let me know if you guys are going to be participating, and if you're going to have, if you're making a video, please let me know so I can watch it. Although I subscribe to a lot of people who take part in Jane Austen in July, so I'll probably find it anyway, but still, let me know. And if you're not making videos, you can also let me know what you might be reading in your TBR, or what you might be doing, etc. So I think that's all for now. I want to keep talking about Jane Austen and Jane Austen in July, but I don't want to keep you too long, so we'll keep it short and sweet for now. And this is Catherine at Taking Tea with Catherine. Have a lovely tea and Jane Austen filled day and month. Goodbye.